Welcome to the 24th meeting of Junto Club. On this episode, we talk about a couple that spent the last 4 months a little too close together and celebrate the centennial of the Chinese Communist Party. Our main topic examines human tribalism, or the common us versus them mentality people have. We discuss the evolutionary underpinnings of this type of thinking and consider what tribes we belong to. For any questions, comments, or if you'd like to rant on something important to you, email juntoclubpodcast@gmail.com. This is Junto Club.
Junto Club.
Welcome to the 24th meeting of Junto Club. So the Junto Club consists of the three of us, Matthew O'Brien, Xu Zhang, and myself, Michael Petnati. It's based on Benjamin Franklin's Junto Club from the early 18th century, which was a club for improvement, or mutual improvement and self-improvement, where members would discuss science, philosophy, politics, and whatever else interested them in an attempt to better understand the world around them and each other and themselves. So we model our Junto Club on that and discuss things that interest us. So today we are discussing sort of tribalism, the neural underpinnings of tribalism, and and we start every episode by going with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. So I'll turn it over to Xu to give that quote.
All right. So before we get there, why are you interested in the tribalism, this and us mentality?
I guess just because our world has become no matter what sort of controversial topic you look into, it's very much like a two-sided debate, I guess. And also, so on social media, it's constantly like you're on one side or the other of a particular issue. So, I think that online discussions and sort of just day-to-day life are often framed as us versus them now. And also, I will say, we'll get more into this, I guess, as we go to the main topic. But I think the sort of more and more, if you're associated with one, if you take a particular strong stance on whatever topic you might imagine, whether it be abortion or you're a hardcore GOPer or you're a hardcore Democrat, you that immediately locks in a ton of issues. People associate a ton of different things with you when you sort of make that claim, as opposed to just, you are, a Democrat or you are a Republican, and that, that sort of single thing is true. It instead, implies many, many things about you, some of which are not, and I guess innately political or inherently political. So.
Okay.
So it was interesting. So I guess basically the idea was the fact that we have that sort of mentality to very quickly go, to associating many things with one thing. I wanted to understand why that is.
So you are curious about what you are also curious about the neuroscience behind that, right? That's mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
so is that inherent or is that more of a construct?
Gotcha. All right, cool. So, so to start, I guess, as per usual, a quote from Benjamin Franklin. I think this quote is very appropriate to, when people are talking, usually night podcasts, the quote is, quote, "It is ill manners to silence a fool and cruelty to let him go on," end quote. Any thoughts?
Who's saying this is appropriate for our podcast? Definitely throwing some shots here at ourselves. I feel like this one's pretty straightforward, right? Basically, even if it's rude, it's worse to let someone make a fool of themselves. It's like the classic, you have food stuck in your teeth, right? It's a little embarrassing to point it out, but it's worse to just let the person go around with it.
Yeah. Yeah, this reminds me of my PTSD of the Bitcoin episode that we did. So you guys just let me go on. It's like
we let
so
you go
cruel.
on too long. We all got to learn lessons. We got to learn the lessons now while no one's actually watching this, and then when you're famous in the future, you'll know how to be entertaining.
True. All right. So if during this episode, if I interrupt you, it's not that I was being rude. I just don't want to be cruel to you.
That's right. Implying we are fools.
All right, I'm gonna make it a game to interrupt Mike every chance I get.
Please do. I mean, I often ramble on topics that I don't well organize, but I know a fair bit about them, but I haven't organized the thoughts, so I'll just ramble.
Got you. All right, let's start with a couple of mini topics that I have found interesting this week. The first one, since I think this month is Pride month, right? July.
That was last month.
Oh, okay, it was last month. So anyway.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's July.
Have you heard about the Pride boat rescue?
No.
So apparently, a few people was boating on a lake or somewhere, or maybe and then they have Pride flags on. I think one of the passenger was maybe a trans man. So basically, and then so they were just chilling on the lake, right? I think another group of people came by and started harassing them, basically, go around them 6 times, try to generate waves to rock the boat, and then also one lady on the boat flick a finger on these people on the boat, on a Pride boat, and then after they did it a few times, they left, and then after 2-3 seconds later, the boat that was harassing the harassers, basically the boat basically exploded and caught fire. So actually these people actually had to. So the people on the Pride boat people have to rescue these harassers, basically. So it's instant karma, basically. So
that is instant karma. Mm-hmm. What do you think they were thinking as they went on the other boat? Where they're just do you think they realized they're God, I'm such an asshole? Or
no, actually, they were pretty screaming even on a boat being rescued, and then they didn't even say thank you or anything. They were also just being being assholes.
Man.
Yeah.
Oof. Well.
Yeah, wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's an interesting, I guess, coincidence.
Yeah. I guess I'm surprised. To me is that I just surprised people be knows that blatantly being harassed the other people just because of I guess in this day and age I'm still kind of surprised that people do that, right? So yeah.
No, it's annoying.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like people are just dopes, just generally. But
if you get that upset about a rainbow flag, you must have a hard life because they're pretty common these days. Just about everywhere in June.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even most businesses will overlay the rainbow on their logo. So.
Yeah. I guess this is kind of playing to the niche and us mentality, right? Maybe they were, the niche and us, they were seeing that, they're different. So maybe they became really, just hate. I guess the hate come from wherever they were believing, right? So.
Oh, I would definitely speculate that tribalism probably played into, that level of hate. Yeah. So, that'd be my guess at least.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next story I heard. Was pretty funny. Have you heard of the Ukrainian couple handcuffed together for couple months?
No.
So okay, on this year 2021, on Valentine's Day, this couple have been like were in rocky relationships, right? So so in the last ditch to save their relationship, they handcuffed themselves together for like 123 days. 123 days to save their relationship, basically. So
did it work?
Yeah.
Obviously not. Otherwise, it wouldn't be news, right? So they done it, and then on the last day, they have one guy came with a what do you call that?
Bite cutters or bolt cutters?
Bolt cutters, and to cut them off. And then the girl basically, once that happened, she said, "Hooray! I'm free finally."
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't seem like the sort of thing that would work. I think it would just make the other person annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and they were talking about they have to go tonight. Of course, you think about it, you have to go to the bathroom together too, right? So
how do you even get changed? I guess, like, how do you put shirts on if one of your hands is handcuffed?
I don't know. I guess no private. I don't know. And they have That's a good question, actually. How do they put the shirts on? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they fake it. I don't know. But yeah.
No, I mean, it's, I mean, it just, I think the better way to do it would be they take like independent vacations, like for 123 days. And then they can see if that were like distance helps.
Yeah. Anyway, so, all right. Any thoughts on this one? Okay, we just move on to the next story.
Yeah,
the third one.
Our unprofessional advice was don't do this.
Yes.
That's right now.
All right. The other one is CCP. Oh, actually, maybe it's not. Did you guys celebrate the 100th birthday of the CCP?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did not celebrate the birth. I didn't know it was the 100th year.
Yeah.
And I was not planning on celebrating it either way.
Yeah, me either. I was watching a little bit. I was like, whoa, because I'm trying to bringing a global perspective here on this show. So that's why I want to.
How did China fare in the last pandemic? Like, was it born out of the last pandemic?
I think it's pretty good. He's doing pretty good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of shutdown or anything. There's not very few cases, like because whenever.
Well, no. But I mean, like in 1918, like the Spanish flu or whatever. Like, because I'm like, why was it born 100 years ago?
19 what?
19. So it would have been 1921.
1918?
Well,
Do you know what happened during that time?
What was that? What is that?
There was so many wars going on in China, like so many people got killed. Like there's a revolution after revolution, right? And there's no. So, for example, like in 1921, like 1911 or 12, I think a Republic of China was formed, which is right after the monarchy, the Qing dynasty basically falls, right? And then the Republic of China, and that was actually try to be a republic, like parliamentary kind of government.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they basically, and then in the beginning they were thinking of military rule, right? So actually, during that time, there are a lot of communists in the party as well, the national whatever party, and they were trying to working with communists, and actually, and then when the first president of Taiwan, when he took over, right, he actually tried to like purge all these communists, right? So they killed almost maybe, I don't know, maybe 200,000 communists. So yeah, they were also doing public beheading as well. So I did not know that, and previously, I was kind of, it made me think that I'm surprised that communists actually reacted so violently and took over, tried to start a civil war, right? So yeah. Anyway, communist perspective. So yeah, China was really. So China had go through during that time Spanish flu. They probably don't even have time to care about food, right? Because they were fighting for survival. And then before that, there was also Opium War, right? British like Britain or France, I was surprised that Britain or France actually tried to force the government, Qing dynasty, to legalize opium in China because they banned it and they was forcing them to legalize it. I say, what the hell's going on? Yeah. And then around the Civil War time, do you know how many people died? You know how many people died in American Civil War, right?
It's the most casualties of
it's about 500K people. So
Yeah.
0.5 million people. And during the same time in China, actually, there's a revolution going on too. And then actually during that time, actually 20 million people die. So during that period. So yeah.
More than
20.
all of World War II.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I guess my point is to give a little bit credit to the CPC to keep China stable. No people die not as many people die right now. More stable government, right? So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Well, all right. Well, no, that's sort of what I was curious why they sort of formed, but that clarifies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one reason they were formed because the people are very suffering, right? People are dying on everything is going down the drain, stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, good for them.
All right. Good for
All
them.
right.
All right. Perfect transition to us versus them.
All right. So I guess to start, we sort of have the general question of like, why do humans divide people into us versus them categories? So like, I guess two things that I sort of, I like two general like claims that I would make is it's something that's probably innate in, human animals to sort of form these categories. And I would say that it's innate because of sort of our limited cognitive resources and like these types of, I guess this type of organization and thought is probably advantageous from an evolutionary standpoint because of its computational efficiency. I will say that like the us and them categories we make, I don't necessarily think that those are like innate in any real way or meaningful way. So those may be more constructs. So I guess.
Yeah. Before you go on, can you give some examples? I think you gave some examples earlier in the beginning already. Now, can you give some examples of us versus them, like mentality? Like, do you mean like country and country? Like, does country, like for example, U.S. and China, is that us versus their mentality or no? And then maybe there's other simpler examples.
Right. No, I mean, I think the sort of classic ones that people will go to all the time is, like nationalism. So like my country versus the rest of the world. Or, obviously there's a lot with respect to racism, particularly in the news now. So you like identify with your ethnic group or racial group and sort of the others, socioeconomic, sort of the 99% versus the 1%. So there's basically every argument. Teams. Yeah, I mean, even yes, the less serious example, but yeah, I mean, like if you go to I'm a Bruins
Patriots
fan.
game.
Yeah, Patriots, Bruins. Like if you go to a Boston sports stadium and you wear like a New York uniform, you're probably going to get harassed. So,
the Deflategate.
Yes.
All right, different topic. So, in the spirit of interrupting you,
yes.
So I mean, it's very intuitive why, they call it tribalism, right? And that kind of provides the intuitive idea of why this might exist. Like this sort of thinking could help your tribe, stay cohesive and have an advantage over an opposing tribe. But you said this is what you believe. Is there like evidence? Is this something people have seen like evidence of being like, oh, we think there's like genes or like, actual like evolutionary pressure for this? Or is it just kind of like speculation at this point? We're not sure.
All right. So, I guess I did try to look at it from a more like how our brains are structured, like physiological perspective as well. So I guess to start that line of thinking. I asked the question, why do we perceive? So why do we perceive the world around us?
What, like perceive anything or things as groups specifically?
I mean, either or. So, I mean, you could start literally as just the basic, like, why do we perceive at all?
So we can find food.
That's correct.
That's number one.
Yes. So perception helps
Survive.
with our, yes, exactly. So our perception helps with our ability to like act in our world. So in psychology, they talk about the 4 F's, like fighting, fleeing, feeding, and mating. It's a joke they think is funny.
Yeah.
So we perceive to be able to survive. And with our perceptions, we build models of our world, right? So, when you have a model, like it gives you an advantage because basically you have like certain variables. So like where you are, like what, exists in that space and how those variables interact with one another. So, I mean, if you're at like, an example that I guess I may come back to is like if you're sitting at a restaurant and like, it's like a relatively intimate restaurant, relatively quiet. And like all of a sudden you hear like someone like screaming. You sort of like, based on your model of what like an intimate restaurant should like sound and feel like, that something is amiss. Like something is not like, something is like wrong with this like mental model of where we should be. So in the construction of those models, you can anticipate sort of what's the norm and you can anticipate what's abnormal, and abnormal like allows you to like react and respond. So if that person's screaming is like, there's like a murder happening here, like you can get away. So it gives you an evolutionary advantage to sort of one, like model your world, and two, sort of make an assessment about like, so given that model, you can make an assessment about normal or abnormal. So,
people profiling you. I mean, I don't know. It made me think about like profiling other people, right? You have a model of this person, like if someone people, is like walking on the street, you see someone, you might be more alert, and you see someone, you might be more careful, right?
Right. Exactly. So our brain. Yeah, so I guess our brain is very good at sort of, basically, if we think, this is a gross oversimplification, but like if we think about like neurons or like systems of neurons as like representing certain variables in our world, and like the connections between those like groups of individual neurons / groups of neurons as like sort of relationships between those variables. A lot of scientists and a lot of people have sort of, modeled at least areas of the brain or certain systems of the brain as like constraint satisfaction problems, which is essentially exactly that, which is basically like networks of like digital neurons they don't need to be, I guess, digitally encoded, but generally we think of them as like constraint satisfaction problem is you have a bunch of variables. And those variables are have influences on each other. So like, so if we go back to the restaurant, and the restaurant is like dimly lit, like cloth napkins, like 9 out of every 10 people have steak on them. Like we can like, so those like, so the variables is like the ambiance, the ambiance of the restaurant, like what are at the table. So like cloth tabletops, like cloth napkins, like steak knives, and what people order is like 9 out of 10 people have steak. Like and the variable we're trying to predict is like the price of the bill. Like we're able to predict that the price is probably high just based on those other variables, right?
How fancy it is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably a fancy restaurant, right? So basically, like, I would sort of claim that, like many, there have been countless papers, like McClelland and Rumelhart had like a super famous one where they like modeled perception of words, like using like essentially they modeled perception of words using like a constraint satisfaction problem, and like the performance of the model in perceiving language like was very similar to like how humans would perceive it. Like if they had a missing word in a sentence, or like a word that was like garbled over the phone, like the model guessed the same word as people did, like again and again and again.
So the whole point of model is to make predictions, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the whole point of the model is to make a prediction, and so these constraint satisfaction problem type models are essentially, you use, the values of certain variables that are there to sort of fill in variables that you may not be able to immediately perceive, right? So if we go back to go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, so what does it have anything to do with this versus then mentality?
Right. So basically, the idea is that you have certain models of the world, right? And people who I guess would have similar models to you, those co-located with you, those who share similar experiences to you, it makes sense that way back when, we actually lived in more like tribes, like we were hunter-gatherers, like when we were literally evolving our brain, like the people who were closest to you were the people who looked and sounded and, basically were the most similar to you and really the only people you encountered, right?
Yeah.
So, yes. They were the people who surrounded you were also the people who were responsible for your survival, or at least to a certain extent, right? Like not only did they reinforce your worldviews because they likely shared many of those, having lived with you for all the time, but they also when you were sick, they were the ones who had to care for you and aid you, and they were the ones who sort of if you were, a gatherer, they brought meat to, supplement your diet, things like that. So they would be associated the variable of is this person trustworthy would be for those types of people would be yes. So
you're saying that you have certain model of the person that are in your group, basically. They are person that's going to keep you safe. You have certain model of that type of person.
Right. So it's yes. So when you lived in tribes, yes. So the people who sort of you associate as part of your tribe becomes trustworthy.
Okay.
And so if they tell you something, or the things that they believe become we've talked about how certain variables, these variables are connected with one another, right? There's an influence. So if they are viewed as trustworthy and they sort of tell you something, that you are influenced, it's not a guarantee you believe that, but it's there's a positive influence associated with someone I view as like me, as trustworthy, as part of my tribe. They have a positive view of this, so you may be skewed to have a positive view of it, at least to a certain extent.
So remind me of growing up in China, where I have all these books telling me that the Western world is the enemy, right? The imperialists and Americans, Europeans are, try to kill communism, and the communist is the best protector of the world, of people and stuff like that. And so I guess at that time, I had not I trust the teachers and the books, I guess. So I used to believe what they say, I guess, right? Is that kind of thing? Whatever the people you trust tell you message, you kind of believe when they say?
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's basically that is basically it, right? What you knew, the people who were providing you education, providing you shelter, providing you, whatever, sort of were telling you something, like telling you a certain thing. And, so, I mean, the variables, like, so, I mean, like all the positive variables, like, I mean, that they kept you alive, that they, taught you, what you were told you were supposed to know. So all of those things that like put them in the sort of tribe and trustworthy camp, like made you like skewed your impression of them such that what they told you sort of wanted to believe, right? And also you didn't have exposure to the other. So in this case, the other would have been, I guess, the Western world. So
if I can try summarizing this, to make sure I'm getting it right. So you're saying based on how our brains work, which is heavily relies on associations between concepts, you naturally sort of associate trust with your in-group, the group that you are used to or identify with, and then other groups you don't assign that trust. Is that what you're trying to say?
Essentially, yes. So I don't know that like you naturally, it's not like, so I guess by the nature of grouping things together, that like you will associate the in-group with trust, right? Because it's like if they do things for you that are positive, then that like sort of natural, like, they do things for me that's positive. So it's like, the ideas they present to me are going to at least be flavored in a positive way. Right. So
kind of, sorry, you can go, Stu.
Oh, you go ahead first.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat my question with a bit more nuance then before I drop it. But I mean, so this is like a hypothesis that makes sense, right? Okay, based on what we know about the brain, it's a reasonable explanation. But is this just like a hypothesis that people speculate, or is there actual like any evidence that this is real? This is how it actually works. It's okay. This is not like a criticism, right? Because I assume
no. I guess I'm just curious what you would constitute as like, so there is evidence that like, I mean, like I say, they've done, I guess, studies where it's like, oh, if we build like constraint satisfaction, like type models and compare human performance and like the model performance for these like relatively specific problems, like there is support for that type of, like that, or there's a correlation between like model performance and person performance. So it's like the way our brains are structured seems to be, like I guess there's pretty strong evidence that our brain is like heavily like concept, like association based, right? And just the sort of the structure there, like, the fact that like how we learn, like how the brain evolves over like time and aging, like supports that. So I guess, but I don't know that they're like, I guess I don't know what evidence would necessarily be like, this is definitely like, I don't know what.
I guess what I was, I mean, I'm not looking for hard evidence here, right? Like I'm not a journal review board. It's just like, right. So like when you say like, oh, they have things that show like a CSP solves, missing words similar to a human, I'm like, that seems reasonable. I guess I was just wondering if the group think sort of in-group, out-group falls out of that sort of structure. Because, there's generalities of how the brain works, but we also know there's special structures that do specific things in the brain, right? So I could see it also being possible that it was a unique thing that evolved independently, or it could be something that falls out of naturally sort of from this sort of grouping and association that the brain does. So, was there any evidence that says like, oh yeah, because of this is how the brain works, that's where in-groups, out-groups sort of derive from that. But I mean, how do you even test that? I don't know offhand.
Right. I mean, there are certainly studies like, I mean, so I can say like there are there have been studies that look at like differences between like adult brains and like, children brains. And I guess like, I'm trying to think about this now. Okay. Cause the question is a fair one. I guess like, but for example, in those studies, like they argued this like tribalism isn't really so they're looking at tribalism more in the context of like racism. So like they showed like people of like adults of different races, like, or, you know, people of a certain race, like other adults of like different races. And that like caused activation, like, you know, essentially, you know, during an fMRI that caused like activation of like areas associated with fear in the brain, like the amygdala, like fear and stress, right? Whereas,
sorry, I gotta go real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Yes. So
Go ahead.
yeah, but I was just gonna say, but in children, it didn't cause that same activation.
But that could be because. So yeah, you go ahead. What's the cause of that though? Like, what caused them to...
So I mean, they argue that this this showed like tribalism wasn't necessarily innate, but I would argue it just shows that like race-based tribalism, like I say, like it shows that race-based tribalism isn't innate. Like that's a learned concept. But yeah. I would still argue that like the concept of other is still innate, because like, again, so the brain is sort of working. Yeah. So I guess the brain is working with limited resources. So it's constantly sort of, using certain, yeah.
Yeah. So I do a question about how did they do the study about racism? Because you say they show the pictures. Like, do they show white people, like black people's picture, and then black people, white people, just random pictures, and then see if they have a response in the amygdala?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
Do you have any what kind of picture I was running? Do they just show like normal? For example, you have white participant come in, and do they just show like do they show like picture of like white people and black people, and also like what kind of black people, what kind of white people, right? So like do they show like them like, I don't know, dressed up like gangsters, or do they just like normal business suit like people? Like
I didn't go too far into the methodology of the study, because I was like, this seems like a typical sort of like psychology study that, you know, where it's like, it's sort of, they get sort of, I guess, the result they sort of want. And I mean, it's not even necessarily like a result I question a ton. I mean, but like I say, I guess my argument, and that's why I specify in the argument, like the concept of us and the concept of other aren't necessarily like perfectly defined or like defined upon like certain lines. It's just more like my thinking, like we have pretty solid evidence that the brain, you know, has this idea of spread, like, and there's studies like, for example, where it's like, if a person is asked to recall something, that's like very hard. And you'll have this in day-to-day life. You'll be trying to recall something and it'll be like on the tip of your tongue, right? Like that's a saying, like, oh, I just about have it. And in order to help you recall whatever you're trying to remember, you'll like start talking about like what happened, you know, yesterday. And it's like, what, you know, if you're trying to remember something from yesterday and you don't remember quite what it was, you'll be like, oh, for breakfast I had this, for, you know, like, and then I went to the store, I went to the gym, and then who did I see, or something like that. And it's like, who you saw had nothing really to do with what you had for breakfast, but it's sort of like there are memories in your mind that are like related to, you know, that are related to, you know, you going to the gym yesterday, which is where you saw that person, you know. So like basically there's this concept of spreading activation and like cognitive and neuroscience that like so one variable sort of helps to stimulate like the other variable sort of either positively or negatively. And so I guess like my argument is basically like we have good evidence that sort of the brain will like, you know, one value will have an influence on like other values of variables. So that sort of necessarily seems to say that like, you know, when one thing is true, like it'll like help bias our thinking like positively or negatively toward another thing. So that's like sort of us versus them. So
yeah,
I guess that's my argument.
You may have skirted around it, but one thing I think you said that to me makes it convincing is the flexibility of what counts as the group you're in, right? Like we talked a little bit about it. It can be so many different things. What is the group of you versus others, right? Mm-hmm. And that flexibility does, to me, would seem to indicate that it might just fall out of the general way the brain thinks rather than literally being like something specifically for like your tribe to, for you to encourage to work with your tribe. It's just something that falls out. And it could have still been helpful for that, right? But if you can identify with, a YouTube channel you subscribe to, right, and call that your community, it's pretty flexible.
Right. And I mean, I think a lot of I know we are going to get into social media a little bit, but like sort of, I think online communities now are like, I mean, so people will obviously argue like there's still sort of like the race, political, like affiliation debates and, whatever. But I mean, I think there are like Reddit, I mean, Matt probably knows better than either of us, but like Reddit communities, people like super identify with, and like
they're called subreddits. Come on.
All right. Yes. Subreddits people identify with, and
Wall Street bets.
Yeah, exactly. Wall Street bets. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say like there are people on there who are like, I mean, even Doge, like, especially during like the Doge like height. Like, it was like, this is the Doge family. And like, people like, there were people who seemed, at least at online, to sort of be representing like, I love these people. And it's like, it's like, you don't know them, but I guess like they can associate a lot of positive things with like owning Dogecoin. So,
have you heard of the Bitcoin maximalists?
I don't think
so. These are the people right now. There's a new something also like Bitcoin toxicity going on in Bitcoin world too. Is like the maximalists. Basically, they believe everything else. Like they believe that Bitcoin is the only legit critical currency. So if anybody talk about every other cryptocurrency, they just go crazy on you. Say, hey, don't They just if someone say, oh, I think Floyd Mayweather was on a stage talking about, Bitcoin, may in the future there might be something else that was going to replace Bitcoin probably, right? And he just said that probably, and then the audience just went crazy, boo him, no, Anyway, so there's a whole. It became almost a tribe now for the Bitcoin people, and so it became very toxic environment in a way. So yeah, anything if you say anything bad about Bitcoin, they just gonna. Almost they will kill you, right?
A lot of people who are invested in only Bitcoin
right.
Don't want people to vary into other coins. But so what's interesting, I'll bring up something slightly different to help push the discussion along. But when you talk about spreading activation, kind of associations, I've seen examples of someone you see this with political groups, right? Let's say someone's joins up. Kind of there in college, they start getting involved in politics. They join a group like the Libertarian Party or the Green Party or, their clubs, right? The Republican Club or Democrat. And it's sometimes they'll join them first because they agree with a few maybe core ideas or values. But then it very easily they'll say what does the group think about XYZ, all these other issues? And they'll very easily accept oh, that must be the right view then, right? Sure. And this sounds kind of exactly what you're talking about. They're well, if I agree with you on these main things I care about, I don't have to, it's hard to research every topic, right? So then you just say, oh, I guess I will just accept their views on other things and sort of adopt that as my group.
Sure. Yeah. And that, I guess, goes with the computational efficiency, right? And sort of the tribes of when we were an evolving human. And when we lived in hunter-gatherer tribes and stuff, there's sort of the designated, or not necessarily the designated expert back then, but you can think of the sort of experts of the young Republicans or young Democrats or whatever, who it's oh, I don't know much about this issue, but it's I agree with them on the core things. They seem smart. They accept me. They seem to want what's best for me. So if they're telling me this is the answer, then I'll just accept it. So back in the day, it's if you sort of if I know you from our small tribe and I've hunted with you before and you've saved my life, and I'm injured or I need help, I'm going to trust you to help me. because you've demonstrated like help before. So
also because as you mentioned, like we have brain power is limited, the brain capacity. Also, personally for me, like yes, my brain is limited, brain power is limited, but I'm also very lazy too, right? A lot of time, like people tell me something, I say, okay, you seem trustworthy, I trust you. I think this your opinion sounds good, sounds reasonable to me, and I'm gonna adopt that opinion. Sometimes like news, anything like report on the news, right? Say, okay, that makes sense, stuff like that. I just like too lazy to do any like fact checking or research, right? Yeah, stuff like that.
Right. No, and I mean, I think that sort of is what, like, I think that's what all of this boils down to is like, basically, like, why do we have it? Because it's computationally efficient and we have limited resources. And, and basically, like, how do you, I guess, prevent, like, having this type of mentality? It would be, like, metacognition. Like, so the idea of, like, thinking about how you're thinking, challenging sort of the opinions that are presented to you, challenging your own thinking. But
thinking about thinking.
Yes, thinking about thinking.
Wow. You're going deep there.
Yes. So that's, so I guess, like, I mean,
what about thinking about thinking about thinking?
Yes.
Never mind.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So metacognition is, the word I use. Like, I guess an article I read was like mindfulness is the word they use, but basically it's like just being rational and purposeful and like our thoughts and opinions is sort of how to combat this. But again, you sort of circle back to the problem of like, how much mindfulness can you do? Like, at a certain point, there's there's not time in the day. Like, unless, I guess, if you just want to dedicate, like, become a monk and just like go and think and be silent. And, that's like, I guess how like perpetual mindfulness would be like the only, I guess, answer to, sort of not having this. So.
All right. I'm going to keep throwing hard questions at you. So, mindfulness is a way to deal with your own sort of tribalism. It's very reasonable. I think you can, if you think about, try to take a good faith view of what other people are saying, you can overcome the initial bias. I agree with that. Now, what do you do though, if the other person is sort of wrapped up in this tribalistic, thinking, and you're like, but you're trying to get your point across or say, present them with new evidence to challenge their views. Is there some way either to get around it, or would the best thing to do to try to, somehow figure out a group that you can make yourself like find a group that you two could both be in to try to like exploit? Or what do you think?
So I guess, so this is less about overcoming us versus them in general and more overcoming like us versus them, like with a specific, like in a grounded, like me and someone else.
Yeah. Like if you don't have, like in a discussion, like in one discussion, right? You're trying to like get to the truth of something with people who you disagree, and you feel like they're falling into this, thinking, is there a way to draw them out without, being like, you need to be mindful of your tribalistic thinking, which is likely not going to work.
Right. Exactly. No, I mean, I would say that, I think that I think the key, you are onto something there, that it's probably, and maybe you aren't the person to do it, but maybe like if you could incorporate like an idea that, or like an idea or a person that is in there sort of like, because I don't know, like you could certainly bring up ideas that like, oh, I agree with that, like try to make yourself closer to that in group and just say like, we're divided on like this particular issue, but like we're not like, so I think there's like maybe sort of connecting on other things, but I think it's really like maybe the better thing is bring in a person who's like very clearly in their in group, who like may like at the very least respect the evidence you have on the particular issue you're discussing.
So, did you forget what Benjamin Franklin told you what to do?
Probably.
Socratic method.
Oh yeah, Socratic method.
That's right. Ask questions. That's right. Yeah.
Just keep asking questions like, what do you think this is? Like, why? And then just, I don't know, just until they figure out, they came to the real conclusion, maybe they could be wrong in a way. So, in a way.
That's true. That could work. Or I like Mike's idea though. You try to find someone in their in group who, agrees.
Yeah.
Or you don't worry about the details and you just keep saying, a lot of people think this. A lot of people say,
yeah, that's right.
I'm the best. This seems to work too.
No,
going back to originally, I guess I want to question that, did you conclude that it was innate or no? I think I missed that.
Yes. Well, so basically,
innate?
like, I guess the thesis I have is that us versus them is sort of, is innate, but like the us and them category.
So we're born with it. Yeah.
Well, yes. So how our brain like works is like there's concepts that are related. And basically like, so as you learn something about a certain like concept, that's going to like sort of bias your thinking about these like related concepts. And the relationships between concepts are often often concepts that aren't even really
I see.
are related in our brain. Like everything is connected because it's so densely connected. So yeah.
You're saying we did not born with it, but it actually is how brain is like limited, how the brain is structured. We actually learn stuff over time. So we learn to group ourselves into categories, learn related concepts, learn a concept. Okay, this is in group, this out group. So that doesn't it mean, since if it's learned behavior, then it's not innate, right? If it's like because our brain tend to learn related stuff, right?
Well,
that's an interesting thought. I guess it depends how you define innate, but it's innate in the sense that if Mike's hypothesis is right, which seems very reasonable, it's innate in the sense that it's how your brain inherently works, leads to it, but the grouping, obviously what groups you think of and how you think of those groups is obviously not innate.
Right. So the us and them are learned, but the presence of us and them is innate, is based, our brain is essentially like a greedy computational learner, right? So basically when you're greedy, you're going to just go toward local optimum. So basically so your model of the world is good enough to help you survive, but not optimal.
Yeah, I guess let's do a little bit evidence that there might be innate. I mean, is like when baby are born, maybe in the first hour or two, baby were able to, I think, mimic human face, right? So there's evidence, I think, that had do on babies. They were able to mirror, mimic your facial expression right away, right? So that means, if that behavior is innate, right? So it's not something they learn. So I wonder if you put a monkey's face or something, or maybe a robot's face, would they do something similar? So that kind of that means they were able to distinguish between human face and non-human face, right? That is kind of a category already. If they were able to do that, I think that means they might be able to do that, right?
Right.
So
no.
that kind of shows it's innate behavior. Babies already know how. Okay, this is human. This is not human.
Well, the brain. Sorry, Matt. So the brain is very good at specializing during the first year of life. I mean, that's really what this comes down to, is specializing, the brain to perceive the world in certain ways. So for so within the first 2 years or something, there is a tremendous amount of pruning. So loss of connections in the brain, loss of connections of neurons in the brain. And that's actually to help the brain specialize in doing things identifying human face. And also
but this is in first hour when they born, not first year.
Right.
Within 1 hour when they were born, right? So
yeah, so that's a more evolved thing. Yeah, in V4 there's the facial form,
V4, part of the visual cortex, Mike. We have listeners who don't read papers on this stuff.
Yeah.
If we have listeners, they probably don't read papers on this stuff.
Yes. Okay. So, but there was a study done, and it's like in children, like I can't even, like, I don't know how, again, the methodology of these studies is suspect and amazing to me, but like basically like newborns were able to they were able to hear like the difference in a phoneme, so like the sound of a language in Japanese, and like one in Japanese and one in English, that like adult speakers of adult speakers of Japanese or adult Japanese speakers could not hear like the English phoneme, and like the English speakers could not hear like the Japanese phoneme, but like newborns in both languages like could like hear the difference essentially. So, but by the time they were like 11 months old or something, like the babies couldn't hear it. Like the babies heard like their like native language, like, you know, the phoneme from their native language, but like couldn't separate the like English or Japanese one. So in any case, like specialization.
Okay. So I want to talk about what about identity? Like, even though in tribalism, right? I mean, you associate with a group, I think it actually make you feel good, right? Because you say, "Oh, I'm in this group. You know, I know what's like Americans, right? Okay, this is like make American great." Again, that's the sentiment, right? It's like, oh, America is great, right? It's the greatest country, right? So you are in that group thinking, then make you feel good about yourself too, right? So how does brain? I guess, do you know any neuroscience about that? Do you get a dopamine hit whenever you feel like you are, you feel like you are in your group that is better than the others, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily have like a good study that pops like into my head immediately, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are studies that basically like when you have we're social animals. So I'm sure when you have relationships, and particularly like positive relationships in any respect, and particularly those that like put you as like a dominant animal, like you probably get some type of dopamine hit. Sure. So
okay, yeah, all right. What about conspiracy theories? Any thoughts on that?
Well,
I mean, is it related and all to tribalism?
Ooh, I have a hypothesis now, based on how Mike's talked about it.
Okay.
So, I guess it's kind of like, I mean, obviously, like conspiracy theorists, they'll just identify like most things as the other group and then share the false belief, right? Spreading activation. They just shove the government and, all politicians and scientists and like everyone else into like one group. And then they say, these are all false, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean...
okay, what's your hypothesis?
Me?
Yeah.
That was my hypothesis.
Can you restate it again? I guess I didn't get it.
So thinking of it as like modeling groups and then associating groups, traits with different groups together, associating things that are similar with similar traits. It seems like conspiracy theorists throw like almost everything together in one big group that is the other, right? Because often they're kind of incoherent about who is behind the conspiracy, right? Is it big business or big government, evil scientists, certain ethnic groups, which are, not viewed favorably by them, whatever. And sometimes if you've talked to them, they'll just jump between all of them, right? Like kind of randomly. So I feel like they just group these all together in one other group, and then again associate a similar traits of just like it's the big whatever is lying to you and is for their own benefit somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm necessarily agree with the hypothesis. I think I'm more inclined to I go to the feel good feeling of being in the known, being unique, right? In a conspiracy group where you think that other people are don't know the truth, and you are the unique ones that knows the truth. Maybe there's a feeling of uniqueness that make people want to believe in the conspiracy theories, right? To a sense of uniqueness, superiority, right? Because I feel like personally, me too, right? Whenever someone says something that I disagree with, I feel a sense of superiority sometimes. Oh, okay, I feel that I know better, right? So yeah, those emotions that, at least from my personal experience.
No, that seems reasonable. Yeah. I've also heard the claim that a lot of conspiracy thinking comes from like a fundamental, either they're afraid of or refuse to believe in just like the chaos of the real world, and they assume there must be someone behind the scenes sort of orchestrating it. Rather than they just won't accept for whatever reason that the world's just like super complicated and a lot of random stuff happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're getting a little off topic here, Mike. How do you think this relates to group thinking?
Well, no, I mean, I think in a way you both could be right. So a lot of conspiracy theories, like in a way they're like, like flat earthers, right? It's like they sort of do, like, I mean, literally the fact that there's like a group called flat earthers, like they do in a way, like, I guess, mesh their identity with this, like, conspiracy, like and it is viewing like the government, like anyone who like claims anyone who thinks the earth is round, like is just like a sheep, like who, just follows like the government. So it's like, so I guess you are getting sort of the in-group, out-group type thinking with like, you either believe the earth is flat, like me, So again, sort of that in-group, like I trust you because you're, you think the same way I do, or you're a sheep because you believe the earth is round. And you also get that superiority thing because it's like, oh, the government and education, like, and scientists and everyone is like tricking everyone but me and like my select group of people who know better. So it sort of like does combine the two, where it's like there is this like, and I mean, like I know in the document online you mentioned like cults too, right? Like a lot of conspiracy theories and like cults, like they follow a person who allegedly like knows better. And that person often is promising things like promising things that make you special, right? Like you're a chosen person who's going to be like, like we're going to be taken to another planet or whatever they believed in, like Waco or whatever. Not Waco, I don't know, wherever that crazy person had them all kill themselves. So like he promised them like you're special and like you know better than everyone else, and like that's why we have this cult that where I tell you you're special and I do what I want, and you all sort of just go along with it. And so I think conspiracy theories like often will turn to like certain like leaders or people who like say like we know better, and so they share that like we are the ones who know better, and everyone else, it just isn't in on it. So
yeah, so you mentioned flat earthers earlier. So I feel like, I mean, flat earthers, I think they are right? Because for all intent and purposes, the earth is flat in your local area. So besides, if you are not a scientist, if you're not trying to go to the other space, like try to build a rocket or satellites, you don't really need to believe that earth is round, right? Around, right? It's for all intent and purposes for your like everyday use. You don't really need to believe that earth is round, right? So, right. I mean,
I work with people in other time zones regularly, so the knowledge that the earth is round is actually useful to me on a almost daily basis. I will say that.
But that doesn't need you don't need to relate that to that. Could be just a big sheet of paper, right? And then people in different locations have different time zones. You don't need to know why time zones work, right?
I guess you don't need to know why time zones work, I guess.
Well, if you take the direct flight from Detroit to Beijing, you go over the North Pole and you don't see the edge of anything. So,
still, you're in the airplane, you don't really look outside, so you don't really see anything that's outside anyway. So
I will accept the claim that you could live your life perfectly fine believing the earth is flat. it would just be, there'd be many things that you did often that would have no comprehensible explanation if you believed it, right? Like plane travel and time zones, seasons, you know, this, all sorts of stuff. But,
sounds good. Enough about that, actually. So after a question, because so far seems to be talking about tribalism is a bad thing, right? So isn't it a good thing about tribalism? Or is it just all bad? We just need to avoid it.
Well, I mean, it's computationally efficient, I guess. So from an evolutionary standpoint, I guess that's like, you know, the good thing. Like if you have people like, you know, you recognize like, oh, the people around me, you know, we share these commonalities, and like that is sufficient, like for me to trust that, you know, sort of trust them, trust their opinions. Like if you sort of have the correct, I guess, variables like that make like actually determine that a person is trustworthy and good for you, like, you know, then it helps to try, like 2 is better than 1 or 3 or 4. Like if a group actually works together, like that's better than one person working alone. So
could we say, well, you've heard of like consensus decision making, right? Like the consensus of a group is usually better than the one individual, right?
Wisdom of the crowd.
Is this like, I mean, is this related? It feels like it'd be related. Has there been any like connections on group, like invert group versus out group versus consensus?
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, it could be related. I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm even thinking beyond like consensus versus just like it allows for people within, like if you have an in-group with like a diversity of like specialization, like it allows for you to like each person to like specialize in things and like help you, like, you know, I'm going to trust, like, you know, I'm the, you know, like chair maker. So I'm going to trust, you know, like that you can provide me with food and I'll provide you with seating. I don't know. So it was a terrible improv, but I had nothing. So,
well, yeah. So I guess the main thing about consensus is I think we always heard like, oh, 2 heads is better than 1, right? So sometimes you have more people, you might be able to come up with a better decision. And then sometimes you also came into the group thing. So I think it's good and bad. If you don't, depends how you use it. I guess you became like, I guess there's no excess is evil, right? Too much of good thing is a bad thing sometimes. So there's what's that? The double-edged sword, I guess, right? So scenario. But it do remind me of like, I mean, evolutionary. I mean, group is necessary for survival, right? Like in the most famous, you know, like Game of Thrones, the line, you know, when winter comes, you know, the lone wolf dies and then the pack survives, you know, stuff like that. So.
Yes. No, I mean, well, I guess that's basically it, right? Like when we were evolving, we needed groups. So this like allowed for, you know, like us to form tighter knit groups, and like obviously resources outside of our head are also limited, right? So like that helps with the like sort of like, so our in group like wanted to access those resources, and the out group was more like, you know, the predator like taking those resources from us. Like, so it was like there was maybe more of a you know, like actual like concern about like survival there. Like we needed to eat, or they need to eat. Like only one of us is going to be able to eat. So like I need like to bond with my in group and like actively like antagonize the out group, right? So.
All right. Last question. So yeah, go ahead. Matt, you going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with your all right.
All right. So I guess looking at yourself, what tribe do you think you are in?
This is too deep. Matt, go first.
Me go first? Oh my gosh, I barely interacted with people for over a year though. I don't feel, am I in any tribes?
You're on a Reddit tribe. What subreddits are you in?
Yeah, this is getting personal. I'm not giving you details on my Reddit account. That's bad
No,
form.
I'm saying what subreddit, the groups do you join?
Usually if I'm playing a video game, I'll join the subreddit. There's some politics ones where people discuss things.
Yeah, well, what are those? Those are libertarians or what?
There's the neoliberal
White supremacy
subreddit.
or Proud Boys?
No, I guess I could identify with liberalism but then that's liberals. It's like a
Those
political
are tribes
philosophy,
too, right?
But I probably identify with liberals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. This is hard. What about you, Shu? You asked this hard question. You got to go first.
You can go first. Go last second.
I'll give some more. I identify as American. I'm not ashamed of being American.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the most patriotic person ever, but I like our country overall.
You don't have white guilt?
I do not have white. Here, you're gonna get me in trouble, but no, I do not have white guilt.
Well, that gets you in trouble by admitting that you don't have white guilt.
This is a touchy subject.
Yes, everything gets you in trouble. So, but okay, I can say I don't mind being I would say American, but I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I find, or that sort of binds me with people, is common sense of humor. Say that is something it makes me I don't know, unites me with people, or helps me helps me trust them quickly if we have a similar sense of humor.
A sense of humor?
Yes.
Not their characters.
I mean, I guess not. So, I mean, no, I mean, I think character factors in as well, but I mean, as I say, these us versus them categories it's not like a linear boundary. It's decidedly non-linear. So
It's hard thinking of things that, I don't know. Yeah. I guess I feel like most of them are really trivial, right? It's if you bond over, you ever meet someone and you don't know much about them, right? But then you find out they do something, share a hobby or something. And then you're oh, all of a sudden you have this shared hobby you can chat about. But it's kind of suddenly it's oh, you can tell kind of the way you feel changes because you're they're in this group that I know.
Right.
Right.
And they talk about how even within couples, oh, sometimes it's less important to like the same things and more important to hate the same things. So it's I mean, which is to a degree definitely a joke, but at the same time, it is when you find out someone is very against something you're against, or as you said, sort of very for something you're for. It helps unite you. It gives you that the spreading activation and populates everything else more positively.
All right, Shu, what groups do you identify with?
It's hard to say. I think I have a tendency to make myself think of myself as a unique. So whenever I feel there's a movement swimming to one direction, mass, for example, cancel culture, right? And then I tend to be try to move away from it, right? I say, okay, I want to be opposite of this maybe. I've noticed now I've been doing that, I think, especially now talking to you guys, made me a little bit more swinging to the conservative side, because I never really heard that point of view before. And then, because I think I used to be pretty liberal, and I subscribe to the Hollywood idea of I guess society. And then just for example, the cancel culture, and then I realized actually now, for example, now I'm swinging back because I feel everybody is getting out bashing cancel culture. I feel now I need to support cancel culture. So my conclusion actually is cancel culture actually is a good thing, but it is a good thing. But the reason it became a bad thing because it went too far. You had too much of it. People just it became almost too much. So I guess it became an actual cancel culture. So the idea in the beginning of cancel someone that's just being just a bad person or something like that, right? That is a good thing. But it went too far, and the swing is swinging back now. So I think right now I need to. So I guess I'm changing myself all the time. I guess try to be unique. I guess in a way. So
contrarian is the word.
Yeah. What?
I said contrarian. You just like being contrarian.
Yeah. Also, I think innately, I think the feeling of being superior, right? Okay, I feel like, I feel like, okay, I'm different, so I'm unique. I'm better than the others. So I have that sense about myself. I think that's why I kind of like doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's nice, a sense of nice self-righteousness, right? Because if you are self-righteous, you actually feel good about self because you say, oh, okay, you are right. The other people are bad. Maybe you have that wrong, stuff like that, right? So I guess I try to not try to be careful of myself doing that too much, right? Because I don't think that's a good thing. But I guess that's how I am. So so that's why I'm really curious about the feeling of uniqueness, like the better than the other person, right? So I feel that I have the tendency to do that at times, yeah. So cancel culture is good. The conclusion, cancel culture is good. So keep it going. Yeah.
All right. Shu identifies with the cancel culture group.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. So I like people who make me laugh regardless of their character. Matt is an American, and
first and foremost.
Yeah, that's right. And Shu is a cancel culture supporter. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. I think anything else? I think it's good for today.
Yeah, no.
Actually, I do want to talk about one more thing about Benjamin Franklin. So I was looking into like conspiracy theories and then people like because I think there's our rumors about the founding fathers and also Benjamin Franklin. And I found something interesting about like there's a conspiracy theory that Benjamin Franklin was a mass murderer. Because in 1998, in his London home basement, they found like 10 skeletons of like about 10, 15 people in his basement. So
interesting. Were they all like, was the serial killers usually like have a certain type? Were the skeletons similar? Like they were all women, or they were all men, or they were all kids, or something?
I'm not sure about the detail on the bones, but of course, once that discovery happens, people say, "Oh, okay, Benjamin Franklin is basically a mass murderer," right?
Well, he would be. So, just to be clear, like a mass murderer is someone who kills like many at a single time. So, if this is spread across, technically, he's a serial killer. But so.
Mike identifies with mass murderers, and he doesn't want you associating him with the wrong people.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so I think a lot of people counter to this rumor is that actually there's a simple explanation is because he had a roommate who was a medical student, and then he used to do a lot of study anatomy stuff in his basement. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
I figured there would be several more likely explanations than he was a serial killer or something.
Yeah.
Like they could have also been just buried after him or other things, like,
Right.
But medical student makes sense as well.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of rumor about Freemasons, right? I know he was the Grand Master of the Mason, but Freemasons there's a lot of conspiracy theory surrounding that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the Illuminati.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was going to talk about it too. Those are exciting topics.
My granddad was a really high up Freemason.
Oh.
But, I don't really know anything about what he did, so.
Oh, interesting. Inside stories. Maybe your parents, and maybe he had any notebooks?
I don't know. Not that I've been shown or told about, so I think it's lost to history now.
What is your is your grandfather or grandfather?
Grandfather. So my dad's dad.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So we have like the ring. He was like a 32nd degree or whatever, which I think is like the highest degree a normal member can get.
Oh. What do Freemasons or Masons believe?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Their meetings are secret.
Okay.
I mean, you can look up what they say they believe, I guess. I think in modern times it's just sort of like I think it's like a religious community that does like some volunteer work and stuff now, or at least that's what they claim, right?
Matt will be, in 5 years, Matt will be stealing the Declaration of Independence.
That's interesting. Maybe you should. Maybe we should do a episode on that, talking about Freemason, so you can dive deeper into your family history.
Yeah.
So, well, it's Matt's topic.
Maybe uncover some secrets.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it's Mike's brother's topic next week.
Oh, if I'm still here, I'll just say that.
All right.
All right.
So we end the live stream?
Yeah. All right. So
see you next week.
All right.
See you guys next week.
All right. We are no longer on live stream.
Junto Club.